Because the fertility rates are high, Africa, each family needs to educate 3 or 4 children on average, not 1. That's a burden financially, either for the government in its education budgets or for a family individually. But it has to be done because there's no way in the 21st century that any of those children will have an economic future that's viable if they don't have an education. I'm a king. Yes. Henry Kissinger had a famous adage that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. So don't take any U.S. military bases on this continent. If there are any U.S. military bases, and there are some, send them home politely. Tell them Professor Sachs made the suggestion. And for Africa, it also means unity is key. Africa is too weak, country by country, to withstand great power politics. It needs to be able to stand on its own, and only unity can do that. And so this is very, very important. With the right vision and with the understanding of enough African leaders that the fate of Africa is totally shared in common, and that there's no way to operate on local politics alone, no way for South Africa to succeed if the rest of Africa doesn't succeed. We need a number of African leaders to say we're going to have a common strategy. This is extremely important because with a common strategy, it also reduces the domestic games and the domestic politics. And that's quite important as well. Because with a common strategy, everybody has to make sure that everyone else is participating together in this venture. And I really believe in that approach, an approach of setting bold goals, and then the role of politics is to deliver the bold goals. And the accountability of politics is against those bold goals. Leadership is hard, by the way, and it's hard when there's poverty, dissension, economies are stuck, all these difficulties, rapid demographic change. It's very hard. I'm not excusing bad leadership, but I'm explaining that it's not easy also. And if not every country in Africa is well governed right now, and there are many that are not, a number are, with dynamic leaders who want to do better. And they should get together and say, on behalf of the whole continent, we really urge a bold Africa-wide strategy. That, I think, is extremely important. We were hearing somebody ask me about Mozambique this morning at a talk that I gave to the B20, and they said interest rates are 26% in Mozambique. But of course, you can't develop with 26% interest rates. Impossible. But there's no reason in the world why interest rates should be 26%. World interest rates are 4 or 5%. They're even lower in China, 2.5%. And so if the financial structure is made appropriate, the cost of capital can come way down, and that will also spur not only intra-African trade, but foreign investment into Africa and African exports to the rest of the world in lots of new sectors. And I also very strongly support African trade with China, with India, and with the Gulf region, and with ASEAN, with the Southeast Asian countries. And so one of the things we're keen to do is to help bring the business leaders from Asia to Africa, the business leaders from Africa to Asia, to make a substrate for these business deals to take place. So I think all of this is quite possible. Africa's demography is quite different because the fertility rates remain much higher. And on average, between 3.5 and 4 is the total fertility rate right now. The fertility rate is coming down. It will come down a lot, especially with urbanization and with education, because the two main drivers of reduced fertility rates are the education of the mother and urban life, because it's expensive to have kids in a city. Because the fertility rates are high, each family needs to educate 3 or 4 children on average, not 1. That's a burden financially, either for the government in its education budgets or for a family individually. But it has to be done, because there's no way in the 21st century that any of those children will have an economic future that's viable if they don't have an education. There's no advantage of having just a lot of young people. The only advantage is having a lot of young, well-educated people. This is a big difference. There is no demographic dividend per se. What there is a massive challenge for an unprecedented acceleration of educational coverage in Africa. I'm a big fan of the BRICS, and I think that right now the BRICS is 10 countries that have 46% of the world population and about 41% of the world GDP, and the G7 has about 30% of the world GDP. Bye-bye. I don't even know why they meet anymore. The big and fast-growing economies are in the BRICS. They could invite some of these G7 countries once in a while to look on. But the point is that the world needs to be remade to suit global development. We need institutions that work for all of the world, and the vast majority of the world is in the emerging economies, not in the West, plus Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. If the logic that I'm advocating makes sense and is actually accomplished, and Africa starts growing as the fastest growing region of the world, which it should be because it's got the most headroom for rapid growth, then watch how investors start coming from all over the world to say, whoa, we have to be part of this. We need to build data centers, so we need to be part of this infrastructure program. We need to be key in the mining sector and so forth. So a lot of investment that now shuns Africa because it looks so risky and the growth is slow and it isn't clear what's happening in the geopolitics, I think can change quite dramatically. Make a plan, make it convincing, help the world to see it, to understand it, and to move irresistibly toward it. South Africa will be absolutely a continental leader in all of that, and that is good news.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I think I'm a king.